Hey, everybody, welcome to the Grow Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Kevin McNulty, and this is your personal development school of growth, where each week my guests and I will bring and break down big ideas and practices that will help you learn, grow, and succeed in life. Thanks for checking us out. Now let the growth begin. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Grow Yourself. I have to say, though, this is not just another episode. In fact, before I get started, I want you to just imagine this. You've you've been dropped into the jungle with nothing. No food, no water, no tools, no clothes. Do you see where I'm going with this, by the way? Just your instincts. What would happen next? I think for most people, perhaps including myself, would panic. And then there's a rare few who their reaction would be purpose. And today, my guest has faced that moment, not just once, not just twice, but many times. This is going to blow your mind. My guest, you know, for him is it's not just a story about surviving in the wild. It's about thriving in the chaos of life. You know, let's just say from for him, it's from battlefield tours to TV cameras, from trauma to transformation. My guest has become a living embodiment of the warrior mindset. In fact, I would 100% categorize him. I don't have to categorize him. The world has already categorized him as a certified badass. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today about how you can become a badass. And I use that term loosely because to get to his level, it's it's really it's a body of work, a long life body of work. And so in this world that's, in my way of thinking, has become a little soft, uncertain, overstimulated, his lessons really just hit differently. And today we're talking about fearless living, not because you feel no fear, by the way, but because you choose to face it anyway. So uh, you need to just strap it in. Um, this is not going to be your average motivational chat. This is battle tested wisdom from a man who's lived it, bled it, and come back stronger. And so my guest, you may recognize his name. My wife immediately recognized him when I mentioned him. EJ Snyder. He's a retired Army Ranger. He's an elite survivalist, really one of the most recognizable faces on television, believe it or not. You've seen him conquer the world's hardest and harshest environments on, yes, Naked and Afraid, Dual Survival, uh, and First Man Out with Ed Stafford. With 25 years of military experience, including combat tours in Iraq, EJ forged a mindset defined by grit, resilience, zero excuse discipline. And today, he's now a motivational speaker. He's a coach. He's a media personality, helping others to tap into their own, let's say, inner warrior and how to rise in that role. He's also written a book on survival and emergency home preparedness. And by the way, his pronouns, goat, badass. And so now I would just like to welcome really a legend, a living legend in the survival world, EJ Snyder. Brother, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you having me, Kevin, and thank you for your service. Greetings to your audience. I'm really happy to be here. I love that you reached out to me, and that was an adventure in itself because you know what we went through.
That's right.
I have been scammed a few times, and I always get these emails, and there are people out. Oh, can you be on our podcast? Oh, I'm the manager, or I'm the relations person for so and so, and
Yeah.
we want to pay you to be on our
Yeah.
podcast, and it's a Facebook Live, and that's when they get you,
That's when
and
they
they get
get
you
you.
to test the system, and they steal your stuff, and it's happened to me,
Yeah.
happens to the best of us. So I put you through the ringer, and when you came
No,
back, and then I
man.
realized, oh, this is different,
He's
and I apologized immediately. I felt like kind of like a jerk because I
Oh, you
really
were
put you
so
through the right
gracious in your
because I
response.
had got like six that day, and it was like, oh, geez. So I got back with you, and
Yeah,
you
you
had said
did.
the right things. I was like, well, I'm absolutely yes, going to do your
Man,
podcast, and
God bless you. I appreciate it.
I love the title,
Yeah.
and grow yourself is something I'm very familiar with
Yes, you
in
are.
my life. My journey is started when I was a little boy, and now approaching my I'll be completing my sixth decade on this earth, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
I'm leaving my 50 teens this year, so I'm trying to enjoy my last year of 50 teens. And age is just a number. I
Yeah.
have more energy than most folks half my age, and I don't feel that age, and I definitely don't look it or act it. But um, more these days, I'm feeling more of the bumps and bruises of a life well earned.
There you go. There you go. Well,
I
you know something?
embrace every scar on my body
I love it.
because there's a story,
Yeah.
there's a lesson,
Yeah.
and it makes you know you're alive. Every pain I have in my body lets me know I'm still here kicking it with all of you.
Well, no, what a great perspective that you're bringing to this. And I know from talking to you earlier that you run multiple. I mean, I don't know how you do it, but it's obviously the reason why you've made it to this success. But let me just tell you this first, EJ, before we get started. So my dad, I think I told you this, that he's Green
Yeah.
Beret, spent
Hmm.
26 years in. God rest his soul, he died a few years ago.
God bless.
3.5 years in Vietnam, told me some crazy
Oh,
stories, really crazy stories. But whenever we would, and I think I actually have this on tape too. I interviewed him about 5 years ago before he passed and was just asking about his life. And I remember asking him about being a Green Beret. And then I think I'd asked him, what's the difference between, which I knew, but I wanted to hear from him, what's the difference between Green Berets and Delta and Rangers and all this stuff. And when I mentioned Rangers, which you are a Ranger, he said, you could just, and this struck me coming from a Green Beret. He said,
yeah.
he said, Kevin, those are the real badasses right there. He said,
Mm,
they are bad asses. And when he said that, I thought, for a Green Beret to say that,
yeah.
that means a lot. And so I started looking more at the Rangers and what you do. And he's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You,
Rangers are more
whew,
about grit, determination. Even Special Forces will tell you Ranger School is the hardest school in the Army,
mm,
at least with everything it puts you through. It's the closest thing
sure.
in terms of training stress to simulate combat that they have out there. I went back after Ranger School. I was a Ranger instructor for 3 years down in Florida,
Oh,
and so you're getting one meal a day. Lucky if you get 2 hours of sleep. You're marching over 12 miles to go to a mission while you're getting graded. So there's that stress. Carrying about a 120-pound pack on your back because somebody in your platoon thought it was a great idea to request more ammunition and more C4 blocks, which were always given to you in the form of a red brick.
oh, no
So
kidding.
you're definitely carrying more than you should have, but
Yeah.
it's you learn from those painful lessons because we
Yeah.
call it pain-based learning. And but Rangers are they're considered as part of the special ops, but they are you're still conventional, you're
Yeah.
still patrolling, you're still grit, you're just even since ever since they first formed under Major Rogers in right before the Revolutionary War, and he
Oh,
formed all these
I
guys that
didn't know
fought
that.
like Indians and Scouts.
Hmm.
The Marines like to say they were the first ones, but actually it was the Rangers. Um, we've lived by his rules, right? Ranger Rogers standing orders, uh, still to this day, and we have our Ranger handbook and we have our creed. And Rangers remember that. I remember, and I'll end this up, but going through Ranger School, and one of the instructors, who's a legendary guy, I think he was a first sergeant at the time, first sergeant engineer. He says, "Hey, Snyder, let me tell you something. If you mess up after you graduate from here, it's not Snyder messed up. It's you see that Ranger messed up. You always
Oh,
represent the Rangers, always
yeah.
represent the regiment. Don't you embarrass us. Even if you leave the Army, you still a Ranger." So, and I never forgot that.
What
So,
what is a typical scenario that would involve? for civilians that are listening that don't know anything about this, what would be sort of like a typical scenario that would involve the Rangers?
Rangers are more strategic in terms of you could bring a regular conventional unit in there to pull a raid or an ambush, but they're more disciplined. They're more highly trained. They're more
Yeah,
physically fit. They just the best of the best in terms of the infantry troops. I mean, we have support troops within the Rangers too, but
sure.
as far as people could consider them commando force,
Right.
um, specially trained to to fight harder, move further, and go faster than anybody else. That's in the creed.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
you and people can say that's brainwash or whatever, but if you indoctrinate that into your mindset and live by this six stanzas of the Ranger Creed that go, you spell out Ranger, and that's each letter is the first word in each stanza. Um, you are creating basically superheroes, superhumans, to understand that. And even the Marines do this. And I'll give credit to the Marines for
Sure.
that. They're very good about saying, hey, you're a Marine.
Yeah.
You don't give up for nothing. And so it's developing that mindset that, yeah, I am better than the others. I can do amazing things. And when all of us come together, we're really going to do something special. And you don't get that in every unit because I've been in regular infantry units and you get your little dirt balls in there and you got to give them extra special love. And they just, when you have one bad egg in the
Yeah.
basket, that can
Yeah.
ruin a few other eggs and it makes it
Yeah.
more difficult to do
Yeah.
the job.
And they
And
can't exist in a Ranger or special forces. There's no room for that.
no, they would definitely
Yeah.
not make it. They would be
Yeah.
weeded out
Weed
so
it out.
early.
Exactly.
And there's a very stringent process to get into the Ranger Regiment.
Mm.
Now, I, the Army says I'm a Ranger. I filled Ranger coded positions my whole career. Never got to serve in the regiment, the 75th Ranger Regiment. I tried 4 times to get into the regiment.
Interesting.
First time I was a private, went there, overstrength through MOS, go to the 82nd Airborne. Then I tried as a sergeant first class. They were overstrength my rank,
Mm.
so I couldn't go. Then I tried as an E8 Master Sergeant,
Yeah,
First
you're getting
Sergeant.
up there. You're higher now,
Yeah,
pretty
and
high
I'm
up into the
still
ranks. Yeah.
trying to get back to the Rangers. I served in the as a Ranger instructor with the Ranger Train Brigade, but I wanted to do my time with the regiment because I wanted to give them 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
and they had no slots for E8s, so they put me in a Ranger exchange program. I wound up in the old Guard in DC, a ceremonial unit. I
Mm.
was like, well, let me stay at the 10th Mountain. I don't want to do that, but I didn't have a choice. And then I was in the Sergeant's Major Academy, E9, our elite
Yeah.
leadership
That's
academy.
the
Go there
highest
for a
level.
year.
Yep.
And I was training my butt off hard because they just opened up battalion level sergeant's major. It used to always be either an E7 or an E8 running those jobs. Now it was coded E9. I knew they had 2 slots open, either first battalion or third battalion, because I knew the guy going to second battalion. He was getting preferenced because he was going to take over the battalion as their command sergeant major.
Yeah.
So I was like, so there's only 2 of us really wanted to go there. And at the time, the sergeant major of the regiment came to the academy and said, no, I got guys doing that job. I don't need a sergeant major to do that. For whatever reason in his head, and he wasn't following the orders. And the sergeant major army said, hey, listen, when you come back here on Black Monday, you better let me know who you're taking because if you don't take anybody out of this class, then you're not supporting the chief of staff of the Army's
Yeah.
his transformation, and we're just I'm gonna have something for you. So he thought he was kidding, and he came
Oh,
back that day, and he's like, "So you're taking Snyder and Stevens?" And he's like, "No, I already told you I don't need them." He's like, "Well, I don't need you. Put your retirement paperwork in. We already got your replacement heading that way. There's a time for you to be a rockhead and a time not to, and you just
missed it.
it's just what it
Yeah.
is."
Yeah. Wow.
And
What
oh
a
no,
story.
oh no, it's like nope, nope, they're getting other
Too late.
assignments,
Yeah.
and so that really sucked because that was my last shot. But anyway, but there's a lot of banditry where guys say, "Oh," and I get it. There's a lot of pride in being in the 75th Ranger Regiment and being a bat boy, and then just being, what they say, Ranger qualified. But I know in 1988, I went to Ranger School. I was given a creed. I lived that creed every day of my life, all the way now, way out of the Army. And the Army at that time was doing what they called the Ranger 3000 program. They wanted 3,000 enlisted Rangers in coded positions across the Army because even the Army knew having Rangers in those leadership slots is going to
I
make the
see.
Army in the enlisted ranks better overall.
100%.
So that's not by accident. Somebody recognized that Rangers were better.
That's correct.
And if I put a Ranger in every team leader or squad leader slot in the Army, we're going to
They're
be better for it.
they're bringing it.
And
Yeah, man, that's
yeah,
incredible. Well,
so,
listen,
and
before
I
we
was
dive
thankful
to
because that opened up Ranger School to all of us to
yeah,
get an opportunity to go because there was limited slots. And when they went to that program, it was game on. And I was really excited to go. It was
I'm
the
going to
one
ask you.
school I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to go to. Yeah, it's the one school I've proudly want to get to, go through, and finish. And it was tough. 68 days of hell. It's longer now, but I lost 51 pounds in 68 days in that course. Almost sounds like Naked and Afraid. Probably similar in a lot of
I
ways.
would imagine in a lot of ways. Yeah,
So, yeah.
I'm going to ask you more about that. I wouldn't mind if you would, EJ, would you mind telling the eyes just a little bit about your upbringing, where you were brought up, just a little bit about your
Uh,
life, who was
yeah.
EJ as a kid and a little bit about
So,
that.
little EJ Snyder, my real name's Errol James. My mom thought that was too big of a name for a little boy. And when she would call me out, me and my dad would both come running. So I got EJ.
Okay.
And I was a very emotional kid. My folks divorced when I was very young.
Mhm.
My dad was a bit of a misplaced cowboy. Probably should have been living in Colorado or a different time period. He was a big outdoorsman. That's all he
Mhm.
loved doing. When he wasn't working, he wanted to be hunting, fishing, camping, outside. And so when he got us on the weekends, that's what me and my kid brother, he took us to go do. And when I was in the woods, I felt like that's where I belonged. And I grew up outside New York City, North
Interesting.
Jersey, Italian neighborhoods, tough places, a lot of street gangs, a lot of mafia activity in the streets. My family had some mafia ties, and that's another story. But I was a half Italian. My mother was half Italian German. My dad was Dutch American Indian, and
Hmm.
so he took me there, and then when he'd bring us back, I was looking to go play in a marsh or something because I wanted to still be in the woods. It felt peaceful there. Well, I got bullied as a kid, and that had a lot of impact on my life. I didn't like it very much, but I was, like I said, very emotional kid. Wasn't very, I was very easygoing, and the kids will target you, and so I
Oh
got
yeah.
targeted. So I had to figure out a way out of that. So I started
Yeah.
wrestling in high school. My stepfather started teaching me boxing, and I couldn't afford martial arts myself, but my friends could. So when they came back from whatever martial art they were doing, whether it was judo, taekwondo, karate, whatever, teach me what you learned today. And so
Wow.
as I developed my own confidence to defend myself, that helped me have enough confidence to stand up and not be a victim anymore. And then I started helping others that were getting bullied. And then I was also, got made fun of for sports because I was very uncoordinated, couldn't, swing a bat to save my life or hit the ball. And I didn't like it, but I was growing so tall so fast. I just didn't have those eye hand coordination stuff going on, but I was very fast, faster than
Wow.
everybody. One thing I could do was could
Interesting.
run. So I
Hmm.
found that as a strength. I capitalized on that, decided, let me start with my legs and started playing soccer and got so good
Oh.
that I was on a traveling team and I was playing my age group team and the next age group, another team on the next level up. And
Hmm.
I was playing, winger and I was playing goalie and I was really doing well. And soccer was really my thing. I was really good at it. But I used to collect trading cards, baseball cards. This is the 70s. Baseball cards, football cards. So I'm collecting these cards and I'm with my friend Philip and he's like, you can't collect football cards. I'm like, well, why can't I? Well, you don't play football. Well, this is just trading cards. We're eating bubble gum and trading cards. No, no, no. I don't want to be around you no more. You don't play football and you have football cards. And I'm like, and it made
What?
no sense to me. So I was like, well, damn, I got to go play football. And I had no idea what football was, didn't understand it. That was rough, but
I can
off I
imagine.
went and I quit all the three soccer teams. I just quit them, up and quit them. They had no understanding why I did. And I threw myself into this sport. I had no understanding of how to play it or what it was.
Wow.
I had played some baseball, and I remember one time I didn't show up for a football game, and the coach was chewing me out, and why didn't you show up? I told my dad, I gotta go to the football game. He's like, it's raining outside. It's gonna get rained out. I didn't understand that football was different. That people don't
Ah,
they don't get rained out for football.
yeah, you
And
play
I
in the
got
mud.
so dogged out that next Monday. And I went to my dad. I said, Dad, they don't have rain out games in football. So if it rains next weekend and I got a game, I gotta be there. The coach is gonna he ran me for 2 hours. I like was throwing up. I was like, that wasn't fun. I don't want to do that again. He said, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll show up then." And so I got a rough left on football and fell in love with the sport. Became one of my main sports I played. But so that was kind of, so I got through the bullying, and it taught me a mindset of no one's coming to save you in this world. And it's nice if somebody does, but you need to have a mindset of no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
If you want to get something done, you can only count on yourself in this world. And and that made me so driven that if I saw an obstacle in front of me, if I couldn't get around it, over it, or go under it, I was going to go right through it. And that propelled me into my years later
Wow.
to have mindset. And my first introduction into survival was when me and my dad were. I was making my rite of passage as a man at 8 years old. I finally get asked to go out the annual hunting trip to upstate New York to go to the cabin with my dad, my uncles, my grandfathers,
Wow.
and be on this hunting trip with just the dads and the sons. And this was a big deal. And so I'm on this hunting trip, and we were hunting, and it was snowing. We had snow. So one afternoon, me and my dad are out sitting on this ridge, and knowing a big storm's coming in, my dad knew this ridge that the deer would be moving to get to where
Ah,
they would bed down. So we're sitting there for several hours, and I'm starting to get cold. It's starting to get closer to night. I said, Dad, I'm really cold. Is it okay if I, can I go back? Can we go back to the cabin? He's like, listen, I'm going to stay here like another hour. You just follow our tracks back. It was like 3 mile hike back to the cabin, but we came straight in. I said, okay, yeah, I can do that. He's like, okay, you go straight back to the cabin, and I'll see you there. So as an 8-year-old boy, you're walking along, and then the snow starts coming in. Well, about a mile into this, I get distracted to my left. I see something kind of interesting. So I wander off my trail and go walking several hundred yards. And I think it was an old truck in the woods or something. I wanted to go play on it because I thought it was cool. When my dad wasn't around, so I had the freedom to go look at this thing. So I walked over to it and no sense of direction at 8 years old,
of
even though
course.
I was in the Cub Scouts, and it's snowing. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm done looking at this thing. It's starting to get dark. Let me start heading back. And I cannot see where my tracks are.
Oh
I
my
kind of see
goodness.
them and I start trying to follow them, but now they're covered up. And any tracks that were out there now, the snow's coming down pretty heavy. And I was just panicked. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Starting to cry. I'm
Of
like,
course.
I see this big rock and I start heading for this big rock. And I'm like, maybe if I get up there, my dad will see me when he's passing by, in my mind. And I get up there and I climb up, and it's about 10 or 12 feet high. And I'm just sitting there, and I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die out here. It's snowing. I'm cold. And I start calling out. I'm yelling in every direction. And uh, long story short, eventually my dad and uncle, my dad gets back to the cabin. I'm not there. They come back out they backtrack to go find me, and they hear me yelling. And I see them with their flashlights and their orange coming at me, and I'm waving. Ah! And my dad was like, that's my fault, son. I should have taught you navigation. I should have showed you how to use a compass. And you didn't listen to me, but, that's kind of my fault. So it got me back to the cabin. They, drinking hot cocoa in front of the fire, and he's like, I'm sorry that you had that experience. Gave me his compass. He says, I've had this compass my whole life. You held it. Tomorrow in the morning, we're not going hunting. I'm going to show you how to use this
Wow.
and show you how to do you never get lost again. And that became the first survival lesson for me that propelled me to want to learn how to be self-sufficient in the wilderness. And that was the first survival skill I literally learned. I call it is a survival skill. People might not say it is, but navigation, it led me after that experience led me to become a navigation expert, like with compass, without compass, no matter
Yeah.
what. And so
Yeah.
that propelled me in life. I joined the Army, and I use that same gumption to just know that if I have a goal or something, a vision, and many times I would share my dream with people. Oh, I had a dream to being an actor and a stuntman. My mom says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Well, mom, she's like, "You're just banging nails with your dad. He was a carpenter." I'm like, "Yeah, I like that work." And then you're going down to the dock with him to collect for your uncle. That's no life. You're going to wind up in jail, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, well, I like the life. I'm good at it. I was big, muscular from football. And she's like, I won't allow it. What are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to go, then I'm going to go to LA and learn this acting thing. I'm going to go be an actor and a stuntman. She's like, you'll starve. I won't allow it. You can't do that. I'm like, you're my mom. You're supposed to support me.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I won't allow it. And then I got mad. Her and my stepdad went to the lake house for the weekend, and I had the recruiter call me up, and right before my 19th birthday, I signed up for the Army. I said, well, I'm going to have that adventure then. I'm going to be like that guy, Johnny Rambo. I know that guy doesn't really exist. And if he doesn't, I'm going to be him. And that was my thought. And so I went in the Army, and I was just went in there to get some money for college, try to figure things out. And it just took, I was a square peg in a round hole. I fit and I loved it. I loved the sense of adventure, what it did for me, the physicality of it, the pride, and loved a feeling of belonging into a unit that
Yeah.
is intact and together. Unlike, I had a great family, but it was all scattered and broken. My kid brother had
I get it.
issues,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
so I took to it really well. I was really good at it, and it was physical, and I had things going on. I played sports in there, and because I moved to three different high schools, so all my sports scholarships in the '80s. There's no computers. Nobody knows where you're at when you
No.
move,
Heck
and
no.
I lost all my sports scholarships to just moving a lot, and I just got into bodybuilding while I was in the Army. I was fighting. I was doing MMA before they called it MMA
Oh,
stuff, and
wow.
loved doing that stuff and really had a love for it.
Yeah.
And I built this physique that about 10 years in the Army, I got approached by WCW. I almost got out of the Army to go be a pro wrestler.
Oh, my.
Had a kid on the way and decided, yeah, probably you should stay in because there's no guarantees at that time in wrestling. If you got
Sure.
hurt, you weren't getting a paycheck. They weren't taking care of you. There was no insurances.
Yeah.
So I did the right thing. I stayed in. I served in the 91 Gulf War, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was one of the
Hmm.
first ones to go in 1990 in August. And then we waited around till the war started 6 months later and fought through that. And then I was a drill sergeant, a ranger instructor. I went to many, many schools. I was a jump master, getting people out, lead them out of planes when I was a paratrooper. Went to Pathfinder school. Went to SEER
Goodness.
school in '96, where I got my first formal survival classes. Completely fell in love with survival and started teaching it while I was a ranger instructor. I took over as the primary survival instructor. They sent me to man tracking school, so I learned how to track men and beasts on the ground, and
Interesting.
just kept going through life. And I was so driven that I made every rank in the secondary zone. When you get considered for promotion, it's either secondary, which is ahead of schedule, or primary, which is right on about schedule. And I made
Yeah.
every rank ahead of schedule
Yeah.
all the way to 16 years when I was sent to the Sergeant's Major Academy for
16
E9.
years? No kidding.
Yeah,
That's pretty quick, even for the
that was
Army
about
standards.
35
That's
years old. Yeah.
wow. And
So I
just so
was
that the people that are not familiar with the military, I mean, Sergeant Major is E9. It's the highest you can get in the
yeah,
Army for an enlisted person. And oh, that's yeah, 16 years. That's damn fast, you know.
yeah. And I was moving. I was frocked at like 17. I think by 18, I was, hard striped or whatever they call it. Maybe
Goodness
sooner. I can't remember.
gracious.
And off to Hawaii I went. And I just knew that I was an in your face leader, led by example. I'd give you the pain you deserved as if you were one of my own kids. If
Yeah.
you did good, you're going to get praise. If you did bad, you're going to get spanked. But I always preferred punishment outside of the UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice legal
Hmm.
system, because that
Yeah.
just ruins people.
Yeah.
I'd rather ruin you myself, and then you will
Yeah.
thank me later,
Yeah. Take you out
and
behind
then
the
repeat
shed.
that
Yeah.
action when you're
Yeah.
a leader.
That's
And
right.
so I went back to the Gulf, to Iraq for 15 months in '04
Goodness.
for the second phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom. We were up in Kirkuk. It was still a big
Mm.
gunfight.
Yeah.
I was all over the battlefield doing my thing. And then I retired out of Hawaii. But right before I retired from Hawaii, I got into doing some acting stuff. And I always wanted to be an actor. Remember, I said that.
Yeah.
And when you have a dream, I found out by that point, hold it close. Don't tell people about your dream. You coddle it like a little baby or a puppy, pet it, say you love it, but don't tell nobody about it. You show people your dream. You go out and you make it happen. And then you'll find out how many people come out of the woodwork. Oh, I always knew he was going to do that. I
Oh,
always said that.
interesting.
I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So let
And
me back
so,
up. Go ahead,
okay,
please.
go ahead. Yeah. And so
Well,
then,
okay. No, go ahead. Go
so
ahead. You
that's
go.
my life. And then, so
Yeah.
then the TV thing happened. I got a stint on the TV show Lost as a minor character. I was doing stunt work with them too and
Wow.
advising because I wanted to be a technical advisor for TV.
Yeah.
And then I loved the show Survivor. So I had applied like 12 times. The first time I applied was season 13, made the final cast. Then they switched the theme.
Oh.
So then I didn't have a slot anymore. So I went from having the old white guy slot, the former military, or the crazy guy. I had like three slots I could go for. Then they switched it. It was probably their first time they got into, maybe if you want to call it wokeism or whatever, but they were going to try an experiment, which actually at the time was probably kind of a cool experiment. I didn't see anything like it. Like I said, I was in New York City area going to school, so I got along with everybody. It didn't matter to me. But they went to a Caucasian tribe, African American tribe, a Hispanic tribe, and an Asian Pacific Native tribe.
Yeah.
And so they were
Yeah.
trying to see how that played out, which was very interesting. But all of a sudden now, I only have one slot, and they had already recruited the guy. So
Yeah.
I was like, didn't get a shot. So I kept applying. Then I got out of the army, and I was working at the SEER school as a contractor, and they called me up,
Is that
and I
up in
made the final
Washington?
cast again.
Is
No,
that up
no, it's in
Washington
Fort
State?
Bragg. I was at Fort Bragg
Oh,
SEER.
tell people what the SEER school. I thought
Okay,
survival school
SEER.
was up in Washington, but maybe
They're
not.
in. Every military branch has their own SEER version. It's supposed
Okay.
to be all the same, and they're all governed, but they're
Yeah.
not.
No,
They're
no.
all not. All SEER schools are alike.
Yeah.
So SEER stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape. I went to that school in '96. I got out, thought it was the best school in the world. I wanted to
Wow.
teach part of it, so I went back to be a contractor, started teaching, and ours is in Fort Bragg at Camp McCall at the Special Warfare Center.
Hmm.
We teach future Green Berets and other special operators and
Hmm.
soldiers
I've
and
been
anyone
there.
that's going to get caught behind enemy
Hmm.
lines, how to handle and survive in the wilderness, how to evade capture, and then when you are captured, how to resist exploitations and different other things that aren't so comfortable. And we call us our Camp Slappies, where I worked at Camp 3. I took on the role of this former Spetsnaz, and I'll tell you, I'm American, and I like you very much. And so played a bad guy. They sent me to all these schools to learn how to be an interrogator and ask
Wow.
questions and profile. And it was
Wow.
really interesting. I did it for about 4 or 5 years. I'm still doing some TV stuff on the side. And but you have one. The Air Force has one down in Texas outside San Antonio. They have one up in Washington and Spokane.
Yeah.
The Navy has one in Maine, up in Maine.
Hmm.
That's their main one. But then the SEALs have one over in San Diego. The Marines have one at Camp Lejeune. And so they all
Okay.
are a little differently structured, but they all are doing the same kind of a thing. Um, and so I left Hawaii back to North Carolina, figuring out how I'm going to do this TV. So Survivor had me as a final on the cast. They replaced me with Jimmy Johnson, the football coach, after he cleared his medicals. He was trying for 2 years to get on the show. And I'm a Giants fan, so that kind of stung to have the Cowboys coach take my spot. But my name started floating around to the different casting directors. Discovery Channel found me and tried me out for dual survival. They picked another guy over me. They said we had this other extreme survival school that we show that we're going to do, and you're the most qualified, skilled survivalist we've seen ever in a long time. We think you'll be really great. You can help us build it, consult on it, and help us build this pilot show. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was just got done filming the show 72 Hours in Fiji, which was an adventure survival type race. and I got called from Discovery. So they passed me up for dual survival, and they had this show, Naked and Afraid, but they didn't tell me that's what it was. And so I'm going through all these meetings, and next thing I know, 12 years ago, I'm buck naked in the middle of Tanzania, Africa, filming a new TV show that became a hit series we have now,
Oh,
18 seasons later.
huge,
I've been
huge.
consulting on this show for ever since I became a part of it. Worked with casting from season 3 to season 16 to help screen people.
Interesting.
And then I did a season of Dual Survival, season 9. I did First Man Out, Mountain Masters, a whole bunch of other shows. And again, I started doing motivational speaking because I knew the one thing when I went Naked Afraid, I thought, I got a knife. I'm going to be naked, going to do something cool. And I didn't realize that God's calling for me, which I had been living, I kept asking him, is that I've been living his calling to inspire others, to motivate others, to lead others, to help them survive life, not just a while, but life. And for some reason, people would see me on this show or on TV, and something would resonate them in an odd way, whether they were abusing drugs or alcohol to get out of that, or addiction to gambling or whatever else, in a bad relationship or a bad work situation, college. Some of them suicidal, which a lot of them have told me, you saved my life. Literally, I was sitting in a hotel room
Mm,
getting ready to
mm,
take my life, and Naked Afraid comes on there. I see you suffering going through this, and it just hit me. And I want to thank you. And I always say, listen, I'm the messenger. I'm not the, I don't get the glory. That's
mm.
God's glory. I'm just his messenger, his servant.
Beautiful.
And I'm humbled that you're saying these things to me. I'm just grateful that I was that thing that kept you here with us and
Yeah,
not to do the worst.
yeah,
And then I said, man, I got to start getting out. I got to motivationally speak to others. I started teaching survival classes
yeah,
more regularly, guiding
yeah,
people, became a life coach for to help those that got brought to me,
yeah,
um, and started writing because I didn't care whatever medium I could get out, podcasts, radio interviews, newspaper interviews, writing books, more TV, the better, because I can reach millions and millions of people now across the globe by Naked and Afraid. And so
yeah,
it's been humbling. It's kind of my life journey. And as I applied for Survivor again, the last thing I said to him is like, I've lived a storybook life. The one that you would see in the movies, this guy like David Quartermain or some character like that. I've really lived it. I've been blessed by it and grateful for it. But there's one chapter missing in my story, and that's you, Survivor. I'm finishing this chapter because you
yeah,
guys screwed me
yeah.
15 years
That's
ago.
right.
So,
Get to it.
so Kevin, I know I've been talking a minute, so
No, no, no,
let's
no, no. I mean, just all nuggets inside there. It's just, I'm not surprised about this.
and we
But
can start. Let's start answering some of those nuggets now.
okay, but let me ask you this first of all. So let's, and you and I didn't talk about this in terms of what I'm about to ask you ahead of time. But for the sake of this conversation and the people listening, regular
Right,
people, let's define a badass in life. How would you define that? Not as you are, but
right.
in life. How would you
In
define
life,
that?
I would say that badasses come in all shapes and sizes,
Yes,
all skill sets. They're not all 6'4", 255 pounds of screaming anger and spit out of your mouth and just going to conquer the hill. Some of them are very quiet. They
yeah,
move quiet. They get through life quietly. They just do those simple things well. It's being a good dad or a good mom.
I
It's
love
being
this.
a good family member, a brother, even a friend. There when others abandon you. And
Yeah,
when times get tough, that's when you know who your real friends are.
yeah,
And then it's in this life, you have a few things. You have your good name, your reputation, your word, and you have your trust and truth in your integrity and your honor. And when any of those things get tarnished, you got to readjust. And sometimes
yeah,
we fall short. We
yeah.
got to ask forgiveness from the Lord. We got to
Mhm.
do. I always wake up every day. I sit for 10 minutes while the sun's. Hopefully, I meet the sun when it's rising. A wise man said, if you want to be wise, go to bed when the birds are going to bed. I had a call coming in. So a wise man said, I read, if you want to be wise, go to bed when the birds go to bed, wake up when the birds wake up, and then you'll be a healthier, wiser person.
Wow.
I don't always get it right, but so I sit for 10 minutes in silence to connect to the universe, tune into nature, and listen for what I'm supposed to know. I pray and meditate, ask for my intentions, put my intentions out for the day, goals and my aspirations, and then just stay in an attitude of gratitude and be very thankful and feel very blessed that
Yeah.
I'm on this earth, being able
Yeah.
to sit with nature,
Yeah.
and that sets my tone for the
Yeah.
day. And
Yeah.
I pray that I'm a better man than I was the day before.
Yeah. You
And
see,
that's all we can do.
no, I love the way that you frame that because when you use the term badass, people do think of somebody that can spit fire and
Yeah.
just loud and take over stuff and and knock down shit, but you're, you know, and we look at a person like you who has, Army Ranger. I mean, just all the things that you've already expressed to us. I know watching Naked and Afraid, I said to myself, you know what? Probably the first night of all them bugs biting on me, it would do me in. I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, it would be that would take me down by itself, forget the starving part. Just, so we think of badass in that, but in this conversation, I love the way you framed this, EJ, because you are talking about the regular person. You are talking about the good dad, the good person, and all of these positive qualities that can come along with
Yeah.
that in maybe in our way of thinking have to accompany the other parts of the what
Yeah.
we traditionally think is the badass. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here, but because I want people to listen as we go along and understand what we're talking about when we say badass. So just fill in the blank. You know you're a badass when,
You're a badass when you, you approach the day and you rise to the occasion that is put in front of you. And so in that sense, meaning, you know, you went out for the day and didn't plan for a certain situation to happen. And it was presented to you and you took it in grace, you smiled and weren't getting mad about it, as much as helping somebody that might be walking up the street with all their groceries. They don't have a vehicle, they're not as
yeah,
fortunate as you.
yeah,
And you put those groceries into your vehicle, you put them in your vehicle, don't even know them, and you change their day. And not you were looking for glory for yourself, but you became the earth angel or the hero of that person for that day. And you see that smile and that gratitude in their eyes. And you know then that you have been a badass on this planet with a simple thing like that. And I always
I
say,
love that.
when you come across somebody, try to, greet them. We don't greet each other. We're a communal species, but we stop greeting each other because we're too concerned in our phones these days. But, give someone a greeting or a blessing for the day, smile, and wish them well. And you'll change their whole day possibly. Because I always say it's the words you speak or the actions you take can change somebody's life or even save it. And you don't know when you're called to do that. And so you can be a humble badass in those ways. And,
Yes, I love that.
because it doesn't take a Superman like person
Yeah,
to do that. It can
yeah,
take an everyday person,
yeah,
and if we are that little pebble thrown into the lake, and that little ripple goes out and it makes more ripples, and we'll never see the effect of those ripples on the other side of the lake. What we don't doesn't matter. It's not for us to see that. It's for us to start those ripples to create more ripples so that more people throw little pebbles in the lake, and then we create a tsunami of
yeah,
kindness and gratitude and positive
yeah.
vibes in this world. And
I
man,
love
with that, if
this.
we can get our vibration in this earth so positive by positive acts, people don't understand. And they're like, oh, that's that military guy talking some bush hippie stuff. Yeah, that's right.
And this is my
uh,
point, though. This is my
yeah,
point about defining this term, the badass, because it has a certain connotation to it. But what I wanted, and I knew this about you, honestly, especially by your response to the email that we exchanged, where you
right,
so graciously came back, and I was like, wow, I didn't see this coming. But
right.
here's my point. To be able to see what I would consider a certified badass, I mean, somebody like you who can just knock shit over, but then come back and say, no, no, there's this can be anybody. You don't
Right.
have to be, like you said, 250 pounds, 6'4". And so I want the people to listen to what is being said here, and that is that no matter what your place in life is, you
Yeah.
can become a badass. And so now let's talk about
And let's
how
just
that
say this
happens,
too,
please.
being humble
It's
and being
incredible.
able to adjust on the fly when knowing that you're wrong, being big enough to admit you're
Yeah.
wrong. And you've seen that out there on Naked Afraid, which is why I love it so much,
Yes.
because there's situations that were developed out there that I had to respond to after not probably responding very well the moment it happened, and had to come back and say, "Hey, listen, I was wrong." Tears and all. Hey, let's clear the air. And and that's a badass right there. Being a big enough person to understand that you've wronged somebody, you want to make it right, even if maybe they were a little bit off, more so
Sure.
just taking a higher road, knowing that in a lot of
Yeah.
cases, most people are way. We're, oh shoot, what did I do here? All right.
Very
Oh,
good.
most people are they're half my age, and I got to come down and meet them. Halfway down into the hole. More than that, sometimes maybe I got to go 75% to meet their 25%, and that's okay because I'm older and wiser. And I've been a leader in the military and dealt with all kinds of people and backgrounds of life, men and women, and everything in between. Yes. And that's okay because I look at the human in front of me. What are you presenting to me? And that's how I'm going to treat you.
Wow. Yeah.
And there's times to smack your
Yeah.
butt, and there's other
Yeah.
times where I got to hug you.
Yeah.
And, and those are great human qualities.
Yeah.
And, I don't always get it right every time, but I try hard.
Again, we're talking about, you presenting the idea that that you don't have to be this perfect, storm of a person to become a badass. So let's talk about humility as a quality of a badass. And can you share a story of in any of the shows that you've been, or even in your military environment? It doesn't matter that you a, a really humbling experience for you. Is there something that pops out at you
Oh, I've had so many, and I'm grateful for every one
for
of them
every
because
one of
it's
them?
made me a better person. Um, and it's the ones where I'm really wrong. I went at something wrong. They caught me on a bad day, and I went at the situation with animosity or anger in my heart, and just had to come back and flip it. And then the real surprising thing is when the other party, uh, you know, most of them will be gracious back to it and whatever, but there's
Sure.
some that just they want to tear into you.
They want
And
to
they
rub it
just
in,
and then
huh?
maybe I opened that band-aid off. Even if I said some things that were very truthful, you might not have liked the what I said, but it was the truth about you.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should have said it a different way or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the situation when I was in the Amazon,
Mm.
and me and Laura hadn't ate in a while, been about 2 weeks, probably 10 days or something like that, 12 days, I think. And we came across this electric eel in the pond. And she just gets done telling me, this thing can kill you. If it shocks you, it can kill you. I'm like, oh, really? I've only dealt with the little ones on the Hudson. I didn't never dealt with something this big. It's as long as I am tall. All right. Well, this was like our second challenge. I'm still a little bit militant because I'm just only 2 years out of the army. And when I got to do something that's really hardcore, I got to go to the warrior spirit, like you said earlier. I gotta dig in there and I gotta get amped up because I'm about to take this pointy stick and stick this creature that could kill me. I'm getting all set. I'm gonna stick this in your face, and I'm starting to yell at the eel like he's a villain in a big movie. And she says, "Whoa, wait, wait, wait." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm getting ready to get us dinner, and she's like, let's be a little more respectful. He's going to be our dinner. He's going to give his life for us. Maybe he can be a little more kind. And then
Yeah.
I tried to break the ice and be a little bit humorous, but she didn't find the humor way I was doing it. And I was like, oh, okay. Hey, excuse me, Mr. Eel. You mind if I take this stick and shove it up your brain cranium? Huh? Thank you very much. And I hit him and I took him out. And then she really took offense to that. And I got him on the ground and I was like, he's still moving. I'm getting a club. I'm like, hey, you might not want to watch this. I'm about to finish this thing off. And I bashed him. I was like, so was that nice enough for you, huh? And she got really offended and really upset. And I had a friendship with this person. and it really caused a situation. She did, as a civilian, didn't understand what she was seeing. She labeled it as anger. She said, I didn't think
Yeah.
I see that side of you. That was anger. And I'm like, and I had been earlier in the episode talking about the ogre in the closet that I locked away, because there's a guy in there that when I unlock that door, he's like the guy in the movie, like Taken. Like there's a special set of skills
Yeah.
that when I unlock that door, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
very bad day.
Yeah.
And I try to keep that guy put away. And he comes out once in a while. He sticks his face out, and he did that day. And that's what I had talked about in the episode. And I was just like, after we got the eel back, she wanted to clean it and have time with it. And then the thing was alive. She starts chopping it, and she's getting blood all over her, looking like an expert. And I start laughing. I'm like, oh, there you go.
Yeah. You
Peace,
got
love, and
yeah. Yeah.
and kindness.
You got a little ogre
That's
in the
not gonna.
closet too, don't you?
That's not gonna play very well. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what. I'm gonna go get firewood. And I walked
Yeah.
off. I needed some time to kind of simmer down,
Yeah.
because I was so amped up still from taking this animal out. You know,
Yeah.
it's the biggest thing at that point ever killed on Naked and Afraid. And I self reflected and knew that the team and her were more important than any food. I was ready to take that eel and throw it to the piranhas. That the way I treated that situation was not kind, and I learned something. The Amazon and her helped get me back to a primal side of survival that I had lost along the way somewhere. And I went back, and we had kind words, and there was tears, and and but it was all heartfelt. It was all honest. It wasn't for. I don't play the camera. Anybody that meets me in real life knows that this is who I am in
I
life.
think
This
it's
is
obvious. Yep.
I'm a real life. I guess you could remember back in the day they had Arnold Schwarzenegger played real life action hero, whatever it was, movie. That was me in real life. That's me. It's who I am. I'm not just putting on an
Yeah.
act. And so
Wow.
that was a very humbling
Yeah.
moment, and it
Can
was
you tell
on
us?
national TV for all to
Yeah,
see and
no, no.
learn.
I actually remember the eel piece. Um, what EJ, what was maybe the hardest moment that you faced in the wild, whether it be, I mean that, and and what did it teach you about, like limits or fear or faith? Can you think of one that really just, whether it's emotional or physical,
Yeah.
I
Well, you know, you get thrown in these situations, and I keep going on these challenges. One, because of the inspiration that others get out of it. That really moves me.
100%.
Also, I go out there for the fire hardening of myself, the changes in myself. I always have that. What is my limit? Where I haven't found it yet. I still, to this day, have not found where that line is, where I'm about to jump off the cliff onto the rocks. I just keep pushing and pushing, even at my age, and I still have it in. I still am asking that question. I'm still ready today to go back out and see where that point is, and if I can find it. And on my last Naked Afraid, I thought I was about to see it, because I didn't know, while I was in this situation, trying to help my friends get to their end of their challenge. We were brought in because they were needed some help. Me and another guy were left. One guy we had with us, Jeff, he wound up getting sick, and I was suffering from severe hypothyroidism, which I did not know at the time I had,
Oh boy.
which creates a great amount of heat intolerance, cold intolerance. You're agitated. You're just it's just, and I didn't understand. I thought, what am I getting old? What's going on here? And that really was tough to get through.
Yeah.
And then to see my initials on the tree that me and Laura had put 8 years earlier,
Wow.
not knowing I was even walking on the same land that I had walked 8 years earlier. That nature is amazing. It changes, it shapes things, and all. But I think when I was on my alone episode in Bulgaria, in the Balkan Mountains, that was my toughest challenge. Not because I was by myself, because I do a lot of things by myself out in the wild. I love the solitude of being by alone, because you do a lot of growth when you're by yourself. But that place was trying to kill me, literally. And it tested every beat to stay in the fight, and it was just anytime I thought I could get something going right, it would throw me a curveball and take that away from me. And it kept pushing me until I got to the very top of that mountain at 5,500 feet, up that dry riverbed, free climbed 150 feet up the side of a waterfall,
Holy crap.
bare naked, bare knuckled, barefooted, with no safety ropes. free climbed, you know, after 21 days of pretty much being a vegetarian. And I got there, and and the last, I lost my fire on the last night there, and it was, I'm going to be spending a very cold night, my last night, as opposed to reflecting on my journey. And I got that fire, and I started while the camera crew was there, and we're 2.5 hours into this thing, and I got a bow drill, and I was like, man. And I had lost my fire once while in the challenge at about the middle, and I knew how cold it was. And now I was at a higher altitude,
Was that
and
Naked
I
and
was
Afraid?
naked, afraid.
I think
It
I
was
remember that too,
They
if I'm
called
not
it
mistaken.
Alone, and now it's called Solo. But
Okay.
I always told them
Oh,
Alone was
gotcha.
a bad title because there's another show Alone,
Yeah, there
but
is. Yeah.
they didn't listen. And so I was, the camera crew had left. I knew I was in for a cold night. I went down to the creek, I was drinking out of the creek because I knew it was fresh water. Even though they said, you got to boil it. I'm like, I ain't got to boil this. It's mountain water. I'm near the source. I'm good. And I sat there for about 30 minutes, starting to get dark, took a rest, and I was like, man, I've been bow drilling for almost 3 hours.
Holy crap.
All right. I got not a lot left in the tank. I didn't know it, but at that point I had lost 52 pounds. All right, let's go. I'm going up there and I'm going to get this fire. And I bow drilled for another 45 minutes. I reset my kit. I always say, in survival, there's always one more thing you can do in a survival situation. So you've got to stay in it. Don't lose hope. Stay in the fight. And I went and bow drilled. And man, when I got that is the greatest coal I've ever had in my life because I had already spent one entire evening without fire, knowing how bad it was. And that was my saving grace. I had 2 packs of wolves out there trying to hunt me down, stalking me. I had everything that Ma Nature could throw at me. And then the next day, I finished up that climb to the top of the mountain, 5,500 feet, to get on the back of a old Soviet era Russian military style vehicle, knowing that I did that by myself, knowing that there was another group of people in that same environment that had each other. There was a pair that came in. The guy left on 2 days in. The girl was by herself for a few days. They brought another guy in, and then they all left. They all quit. So 4 people went to Bulgaria, and I was the one
Wow.
that made it. You
Now,
know,
let me ask this though. Why, generally speaking, in your experience, whatever show it was, even by the way, again in the military, why why do you find people tap out? What is sort of I know there's probably many reasons, but what's the
oh yeah.
central idea there? Why do people
And
tap
and
out?
once you quit, it's easy to quit again. It's easy to keep repeating that. We've seen it in Naked Afraid. You can run down the tribe list of all people that ever went out on Naked Afraid and look at the ones that tap, whether it's medical or just by their own accord or producer. Well, once you have that tap flag on you, it just repeats itself. And I think it's a mindset thing. In the Ranger Creed, you know, I will never surrender.
Right.
Surrender's not a Ranger word. So for me,
Mm,
and that started way early in my life,
yeah.
knowing that no one's coming for me, I have to find a way. And to me, and I say this jokingly, I'd rather be dead than to lose or quit. I was the worst sportsman when it came to sports. Super competitive. I loathe losing. I do not like the taste of defeat in my mouth. It's worse than like, a bitter aspirin. And I don't like it sitting in my mouth long. I'm going to spit it out. I will cut it out. I do not like the taste of defeat. And that just propels me to drive, to train harder,
Yeah.
to be better for the next time. And so
Yeah.
if people allow themselves to fall into a mindset of failure and quit, it's going to haunt them the rest of their life. You have to exercise that specter out of your life, or you're going to see failure around the corner because it's failure is a negative. I never lose. I either win or I learn, and that's a positive.
Oh,
So
very interesting.
you
Yeah.
take that motto with you. You don't lose. You either win or you learn, and you do better the next time. And so when I took on that philosophy at a point, man, there's nothing going to stop you. I've got 6 challenges, 206 days, and one right speared testicle, and I'm still never tapped out on naked afraid. Where most normal humans would have said, "Oh, I just speared my balls. I'm out of here." I said, "No, let's go. Stitch it up and let's keep going. I got 33 more days on my clock. You're not going to cheat me of this adventure. So stitch them up. Let's go." And I'm not your normal person. I am cut from a different cloth. I
Right.
understand that, and no one should
Right.
compare themselves to EJ Snyder. There are others like me out there, but
Yeah.
um,
Well,
this is who I am.
yeah, but this engages the question, again, trying to keep it real. This engages the question whether something is nature or nurture. In other words, were you born with a certain amount of badass, or did you develop it along the way? It sounds to me like, just listening to your story, that you've learned a lot on your way, along the way. But again, speak to the average person that
Right,
believes they need to become more of a badass, let's say more resilient, a little
right.
bit more mentally tough.
So, yeah. So let me say this.
Please.
So people ask, how do you treat mindset? How do you train
Yes.
mental toughness? And what I tell people is, you're already doing it in your life. Think back to when you started, like for EJ as an example. I got bullied. I sucked at
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
I had my brother was a difficult person.
Yeah.
I had relationships that didn't work out. I had to figure them out, whether it was friendship or love relationship. I had to figure out I'm not doing well in school. How to and never be satisfied being average. Never be satisfied being just okay. Always know that you deserve the most out of this world. This life is meant for living, not letting it pass you by, and get after it. When I'm dead, I don't want them to say, "Man, that guy looks great." I want them to say, "Man, that dude rode life hard." And you know, you never just don't get out of the mindset of being that average is okay. And it may be okay for you if that's where
Yeah.
your goal is in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
is to just, I want to stay home with my family. We can have game night. We can do this. That's
Yes.
not failure. That's not
Yes.
just average.
That's right.
That is in your terms of in life, what is your highest um, nirvana, your highest heaven for you in this world? What mark do you want to leave on this earth? And I always want to find this place better. I'm a Sagittarian male, so adventure is always going to be chasing me. I'll never be satisfied just sitting on a chair. I'll probably be running around till I'm 99 years old. And if I'm in a wheelchair, it's going to be motorized, souped up, and I'm going to be hauling through the friggin' woods on it. I better believe that. And I have enough energy. I find sleep a very useless act. I find it. I know it's necessary. I know it helps us heal, keeps us mind sharp. But I'm like a machine. I
Yeah.
went off 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night most of my life. Now that I'm a little older, I need at least six.
Yeah.
But I don't. When someone says take a nap, I like what?
Yeah. No, I was the
I could
same
be
way.
doing something productive, chasing a goal. I got plenty of time to sleep once I've left this earth, and I say that jokingly, but it's still
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so driven in a way in
Yeah.
my how I'm
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
that here's the other thing: never be satisfied. Always stay hungry
Always stay
because
hungry.
once
There's the word.
stay hungry because when you become satisfied, then you get lazy. That's when you get fat. That's when you get out of shape because you're like, oh, I made it. I got $1 million in the bank, and blah blah blah. Next thing you know, boom, you're gone. Your health is gone, and you're
Yeah.
dead. And so, always stay hungry,
I
stay
love that.
driven, and keep finding something that excites you about life or a goal. I don't care if you want to be the best crochet knitter in the world. That will keep you hungry and drive you. I have found a lot of people that have exited this world early because they've lost their flame. Their
Yes.
flame's gone
Yes.
out. They're not hungry. They don't have anything they're striving for. Find a new hobby. If there's something, everyone says, I got a bucket list. I ain't got a bucket list. I got an adventure life
Yeah,
list. I've got a to-do
man.
list that I keep adding to it because you know what? A bucket list ends. But
Dude,
if you
you
have a
are,
life list, you have a to-do list, well,
yes.
you get after either, you know what? Someone said this in the movie, said, either get busy living or get hurried up dying. One of
I
the
love
two.
that.
Because
You're
at the end
nailing
of
it.
the journey, we're all going to check out of here.
Yes, that's right. But
But
you
when
know
you
what
look
you're
back over your shoulder, and don't look for a book on EJ Snyder's life because it ain't going to happen. Because there's some chapters in this book that are going to stay completely
I'm
blacked
tracking.
out
I'm
to the
tracking.
grave.
Yeah.
But and for many reasons, protection of others and different things. But in some moments that were lessons for me that I'm not proud of. But it's just by my actions and what's on TV and other things,
Yeah.
my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids will always have something to look back on and know that I'm authentic. What you see on TV was how I was. In the hardest of times, I knew when to yield and bend a knee to somebody and lend out a hand and help them. When to pop them on the head to get them back in line. And so, you know,
I think that's another really important characteristic of a badass, in my opinion, is somebody who's authentic. And that word's tossed around a lot, and some
yeah,
people they've learned how to pretend to be authentic. But I agree with you that, authenticity, being who you are so that people know who's in front of them, what they're bringing is critical, and it's not easy to be that way, especially in this
right.
world where just even the average person now on social media can get branded, and now you're trying to show the fake you, even though your life might be shit. You're still
And
trying
and
to, yeah.
and I tell people they come to you, oh, you're my hero, you're my. I'm like, yeah, I'm somebody in your life that you
Hmm.
looking up to, and you're motivated by whatever. But your dad should he's your hero. Your
I love
parents are your
that.
hero.
You got it.
Always remember that.
Yeah.
Maybe your brother was your hero. My mom's my hero. And it's very humbling when all of a sudden you see kids dressing up like you for Halloween.
Mm.
They're dressing up you coming to an event dressed up like you with when I was in dual survival,
Yeah.
this little guy come up with a do-rag and he had the shirt and the military pants. And my
Yeah.
post, when I was a kid, I had posters on my wall, of my heroes. And all of a sudden now my poster's on the wall for these people. And it's
Yeah,
like
man.
I remember the first time I was on TV when I was mostly first one that like was my coming out known was my first episode of Naked Afraid. And I'm sitting with my family in a Metro diner and we're eating and everyone's looking at me and I'm like, what are you looking at us for? And it was like I realized, oh, it's because I was on TV.
Wow.
Oh, this is what this feels like. Whoa. And it
Wow.
took some getting used to. It. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of weird. I've been wanting this my whole
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Is
now I
there
got it. I'm like, I don't know if I
Oh,
want it.
now what
This
do I
is
do? It's
kind of
like the
weird.
dog that caught the car, and now it's
Yeah.
got the EJ, is
And
there a
now, and I tell people, don't if you don't want to make time for your fans and take time to talk story, yak it up with them, show them some appreciation because you wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for them,
That's
and
right.
take a picture or sign an autograph. Don't put your naked butt on TV.
Yeah.
I get cornered in Walmarts or this place or that place all the time by fans, and, for me, it's about them. I'm about to make their day. You don't want to be this A-list actor who's an a-hole
Who's an
because you just
a-hole?
kind of
That's
smuck
right.
them off.
Yeah.
I always try to just show such
Yeah.
gratitude to them because
Yeah.
I may be the first famous person that, in their mind, that they're
And
ever
you can
going to meet or
change
see.
a person's
Yeah,
life by
exactly.
showing them that love. What is there a particular question that you hear the most about, like, your when you're on Naked Afraid or whatever the case might be? Is there a question that people ask you the most and say, "Hey, tell me about this"?
Well, I always get the old, hey, oh, how you doing, EJ? I hardly recognize you with your clothes on. Okay, can I get another dollar, please? I get
Yeah,
that
like,
one. That's an icebreaker question.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, since I speared my testicles, I'll get, hey, EJ, how's your balls doing? I'm like,
Oh
dude,
God.
you got a beard, about
Come
a
on
little pot
now.
belly. You're kind of freaking me out with that question.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
a lot of them ask, why naked? And I'll start with that one. Well, naked puts us back to a time where man was very primitive, very primal,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
clothing's a physical layer of shelter. It's
Yes.
also a psychological layer of shelter. When you remove it, you're bared to the world. You feel very
100%.
inadequate, very, very vulnerable in both physically and mentally. And then it's like, what are the toughest things? being barefoot's pretty rough. I walk around barefoot quite a bit now to keep my feet tough. The bugs are always a pain.
But you
So
said the
those,
bugs are just a pain. Dude, I
well, they
still
are
think to
because
myself, they
after
seem like
several
way more than a
days,
pain.
well, after several days, you're ketosing and you're starting to smell like the environment, and they lessen and they're more
Oh, I
manageable.
see. Okay.
But the first week or so can be rough. You have to be mentally prepared to say, well, embrace the suck. Hello.
Yeah.
And then people start complaining about being out there. I'm like, go look in the reflection in the lake
Yeah.
and go thank that person for you
Yeah.
being out here. And
Yeah.
after you do that, good. Because then I don't want to hear you complaining anymore because you've been up
Yeah.
here whining for an hour. I don't want
What's
to hear
the
it.
what's the closest you came to tapping out? I mean, what's the closest that you came to, and what did you do about it?
The that night I lost fire in
Okay.
Bulgaria, which they didn't show, and the temperatures that they show on the edit are incorrect. They say it's 51 degrees. No, it was 28 degrees with the wind
Oh,
blowing down on me,
Jesus.
and so that really pissed me off when I saw the edit because I knew the temperatures were way worse,
Yeah.
and they weren't being honest. I only tell them be honest. If I'm
Yeah.
out here for 23 days, then you're going to say I'm out here. No, you're out here 21. No, I was out for 23 days.
Yeah.
You need to say that. But so that cold, I mean, bone chilling, grip. I mean, I tried everything in my wheelhouse that I knew about survival. And in that particular zone, the only time a bow drill would work was between 1 and 3 o'clock. So the last bow drill I did the last night I was there in Bulgaria was me praying to God and me just not gonna. I wasn't gonna let Bulgaria beat me. For me, that was Bulgaria saying, "This is my chance to get you, Snyder, before you get out of here." So Bulgaria was my enemy, and I was not going to let Bulgaria beat me. And that's how I got that fire, and I gripped through it. But you had a bojo between 1 and 3 in the afternoon out in the field where the sun could get at you because there was always a little slight breeze. The conditions, it was a little moist in the mountain air. All enemies of friction fire, and I just gritted through. I made a nest bed and threw hay over me and wound up getting a couple hours of sleep before the cold really came in. Kept exercising. And most people say, "Well, why don't you keep bow drilling?" It was cold and the wind was blowing at
Gosh,
that
I can't
point. There
imagine.
was no
Yeah.
way I was going to get a fire.
Yeah.
And then I crawled up under some leaves for
Yeah.
a while and
Yeah.
just kept moving and knew for longest 14 hours of my life. But I knew, as they say, in the morning the sun will come. And if I could just hang in, for me at that point, yeah, I gotta call him. No, I throw the radio down the road. No, I'm not gonna call him. No, victory is sweeter than any defeat. I'm not gonna do it. I would rather die than tap. I would just have these arguments with myself. No, no, you gotta go. You're getting hypothermia. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting. I can make it. So I'm having this inner battles with myself. And then I remember that I was in a bowl with the ridge line. So even though the sun was up at 6, I wasn't going to see it till about 8:30.
I see.
And I'm very good with my field time clock. So I was just went and sat in that meadow and got in a meditative state the last hour and just said, you know what? I'm going to lower my mental being. I'm going to still my heart, my spirit. I'm just going to wait it out. I'm going to just sit here and wait till that sun comes. And when that sun comes, it's going to be glorious. I'm going to warm up, and it's going to
Yeah.
be freaking amazing. And I was sitting there with my legs crossed in a yoga position, my palms to the sky, and I was chanting a little bit, and I was singing to myself, and I was humming, and I heard the crew come up, and I heard him whisper, "Holy shit, he's still fucking here. I thought he'd have been gone." And I got up and I said, "You're goddamn right, I'm here, because I'm EJ Efford Snyder, and I don't tap for no man." Or no ball, no country, and no God, no Mother Nature ain't doing that to me. We're getting fired today, baby. Well, let's go. Get in here, get me mic'd up. And I got that fire, and I
So
was
the
so grateful.
so the idea is that in part you're you're talking about the self-talk
Yep.
and maybe even for the
Self
average
coaching.
the self-coaching, yeah, and for the average person out there that we have to have a bit of rebellion in us, right? That we're, just, you know, Maybe even if you don't
If
even
there's no
completely
one there,
believe it,
yeah,
you just push
yeah.
back. No, I'm not going to give
Fake it till
up.
you make it, they say, right? But
Yeah,
if
yeah, 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 yeah,
there's no
yeah.
one to put a boot in your ass out there, because
Yes,
sometimes we need a lift. We need someone to say, "Hey,
yes.
man, you got to put the boot in your own ass,"
The
especially
cavalry is
when you're
not
by yourself.
coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming for you. And these people get out
Wow.
there and they don't understand too. When you're by yourself, we're a communal species. So the laws of three say after about 3 months, you could start going crazy. We see examples of this in the movie like Castaway. And what did Tom Hanks' character do? He had been going for a while. He gets this vision of his soccer ball Wilson or his volleyball, and he starts talking to the volleyball. Well, for
Right.
him, that was his way to stay
Yes.
sane. So
Yes.
like when people go out on the TV show alone, I'm like, when you're by yourself, you gotta look at that diary camera, and that's your Wilson. You talking to the people out there, the audience. Imagine in your head that you're actually talking to somebody, and that keeps you going. And I sing to myself a lot when I'm alone. I'm out there, and I'm not used to be a great singer when I was younger, but God gave me this grizzled voice now after being a drill sergeant and decided you're going to have this recognizable voice. That's what you're going to get now. But I
Yeah.
can sing a little Johnny Cash from time to time, but I do
Okay,
like to
well,
sing.
that'll work.
So
Yeah.
I sing to myself out in the field and I make up songs. I
Yeah.
sing cadences, but
Yeah.
that's just you entertain yourself but what I'm doing is elevating my vibration of positivity
Yeah.
to a higher level to encompass me to be in good spirit and to know that it's okay.
Well,
And it's okay to cry. It's okay because that I look at
100%.
tears and
100%.
pain as weakness leaving the body.
100%.
So get it out
I
of you.
love
Even if
it.
you have to throw up, get it out of you. Wipe it off and stand up
Yeah.
and say, I matter.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
You also talked
Pat on the
about this.
back.
You also talked about when you sat down, started meditating and just trying to let your mind settle, your emotions settle. I think that's, again, just a basic concept in life that, when you get really stressed, emotional, that fight or flight, comes around, that's an important component, right? To let your emotions kind of come down a little bit so you can
Yeah.
freaking think and have a calm, rational approach
Yes.
to what's
And
happening around you.
and you said something very key there. In life
Mhm.
or in survival situation, whatever situation,
Yes.
always stay calm. Whether I was in battlefield and there was rounds flying at me, always stay calm because a calm mind thinks much clearer. And like in the military, we've learned to develop our mind to
Yep.
think through critical thought process in
Yep.
milliseconds. So what would take a normal person a minute or two to figure out, we can figure out in a matter of seconds,
Yeah.
and especially life or death decisions. But you calm yourself, have it, process what you're seeing, debate really quickly, whatever, come to a conclusion, and then take action. The worst thing in the world is inaction, indecision. A bad decision is better than no decision. And get moving. At least you're heading somewhere and you're being propelled forward. And then remaining as you start moving, remaining flexible, adaptable, and adjust on the fly as you go. And if you can do those things in life, sit there, stay calm, make a decision, move forward where I'm going, a goal, and then as you're going down that path, make adjustments on the fly.
Yeah.
You'll be very successful.
Very interesting. You also, as you were just talking just now, and I know we're up against a little bit of a time crunch here.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to about 15% battery power, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, listen. Okay. Well, let me just move forward here then. And
Well, ask
there's
this question because it sounded like this was going to be very
Well, it
interesting.
was about problem solving, whether you have
Yeah.
this structure that you use for problem solving. Is there some kind of a structure that you
Mm,
use, a basic structure?
right, right. Well, in terms of survival or even things,
Yeah.
you got to stay calm. You
Yeah.
have to assess the situation. What am I looking at?
Mm.
What are the problems with it? I got to figure out courses of action to deal with it. Is everybody okay? What resources do I have at hand, whether physical, mental, or others? And then I got to make a plan. Check out my plan. We do pace planning in survival or even the military. Pace is primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. So
Oh, wow.
there's four different courses of action for everything you're going to do, or try to at least have three of them, because best plans laid. Murphy's out there. Enemy always has a vote, or Mother Nature always has a vote, and they're gonna challenge you. So once you have your plan, now you execute. Remain adjusted, remain flexible, adjust on the fly, stay adaptable, change course as you need to keep that flow going, and then make it to that end goal. And when you
Wow.
get there, you got to assess what happened, whether it was a positive outcome, victory, or even and maybe not so good.
Yeah. You
and
got
and,
to
and
look at
take
it.
yeah, what were the three positives out of this? What were the three improves that we can do? And then, or there might only be two. Maybe, yeah, we didn't do this, and learn from that. Now, remember, we went back to the mindset thing and mental toughness. You go through life, you meet challenges. I got bullied. Ah, man, I failed at sports. I couldn't get through college. Those are the little experiences that make you mentally tougher, that you put in your backpack, or your duffel bag of life. And you learn when that experience comes in front of you again. You've already have an experience with it. You know how it outcome either went the way you wanted or not the way you wanted. So how do I change it to make it the way I wanted it? And
Oh,
so every
love it.
time you go through those experiences in life, a divorce, or I got through. Man, I was an alcoholic, but I conquered that. Those little experiences is what mentally makes you tough.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was stuck out in the rain overnight. My car broke down. It
Yeah.
was winter time. The snow came in. I was cold, but you made it through the other
Yeah.
side in one piece.
Yeah, man.
So you're
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
those little things, because we
Wow.
coddle too much in life.
I think you're right.
When hard times show up, people that have been coddled and are soft, they
They
ain't gonna
can't
make
figure
it.
it out. No, they're not going to
Hard
make it.
people will. So how do you test yourself day in and day out? What challenges do you put on yourself? Like you said earlier, where do I find that breaking point? That point of um,
Just before you tap out.
I'm going to quit. Yeah, just
Yeah.
before you tap out. And so by toughening yourself up and you go through these experiences, that line gets further and further out
And part
to
of what
where,
I, oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, and it gets
No,
further out, and then you may never find it because you're developing a mental toughness within
yeah.
yourself based on your life experiences. That's what makes your mental toughness. That's what creates your mindset. And
Yes.
lastly, on mindset, a positive mindset in everything in life. Never get in a cloudy headspace. If you put a negative out to the universe, that's all it knows. That's what's gonna send back to you. You
Yeah.
want to attract positive in your life. Good things only speak in positive, in singularities. It only understands one word sentences and that kind of thing. But if you have a winner's mindset, a positive mindset, can do, never quit, then the things in your life will always follow that
Yeah.
path.
Yes,
And you
man.
can apply a winner's mindset to anything: your
Oh,
job, your relationship, your schoolwork,
I love
and
this.
going out naked and afraid.
But the other thing that I heard you say
Yep.
earlier, and then I'm gonna try to wrap this up because I don't want you to
Okay.
bounce out of here.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I heard you saying, you said it a couple of times, a few times throughout this conversation, and that was that you have to put challenges in your way. You can't just all of a sudden show up at a big challenge and have any tools or have any
Yep.
resources. It's not like you can't make it, but to your point, try to push yourself a little bit and put yourself in positions where you learn what you're talking about. Because you didn't
Yeah.
just show up at this, 59 and suddenly become a badass. You went
Yeah.
through a lot of trials. And then I think I would submit to you that you learned to put challenges in front of you and say, let me see if I can
Yeah.
take it.
And you do like these challenges. There, I was given
Yeah.
opportunity. I put it in front of me. And when you can do that in life, is like if there's something that you've been wanting to do. Oh shoot, what did I do here? My big thumb hit something.
You're still
If
good.
there's
Yeah.
something in life, let's say you wanted what's terrified you in life is getting on a bicycle. Simple task, but for some people that's scary.
Yeah.
Get it, conquer it, work at it, and when you do that, you'll have such self confidence in yourself.
That's right.
Well, how can I push this to the next level? I'm going to take this bike. I'm going to put saddlebags on it. I'm going to put some camping gear in it. I'm going on a 2 day bike ride. I'm going to camp out overnight.
Yep.
Then I'm going to come back.
Yep.
And that's just an example, a very
Yes.
simple one. But if you apply that to other things, I'm
Yes.
going to go on a hike. I haven't been physical because I've had people say, "Oh, I've been sitting on the couch. I'm overweight. You got me out there exercising. I've been walking every day, 20, 30 minutes every day for 6 weeks. I changed my diet and I've lost 30 pounds. Thank you. And it's
100%.
like, it's where can you make changes in your life to better your life? And then how can you push yourself? Take on it. I've never built a birdhouse in my life. There was something I just did recently that you would think, oh, he must have. There's stuff in survival I have not attempted because it scares the shit out of me
Yeah.
because I don't want to fail. Oh, I said
Yeah.
that nasty word. Get it out of your
Oh
mouth,
my
Snyder.
gosh. Yeah.
And and I'm being honest with myself, honest with
Yeah.
everybody here. And so I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
I've been putting it off. I'm going to dedicate 2 hours to try to tackle this
Yeah.
task. Once I do it, boom, now we did.
I
I
love
was
this.
just, I'll be open about this. I had never built a bird trap, a cage trap. I
Mm.
just, in my head, looking at this thing, it terrified me because I'm not very sometimes coordinated. I got big hands. I'm like, that looks terrible. I'll, fuck, I'll just hit the bird with a stick. I'm not going
Yeah.
to build this thing. And I had a student, and she needed to learn how to build this for a follow-on thing she was getting ready to do. And I said, you know what? We're going to do this today, and we're going to do it together. And we did it, and it came out amazing. And then I was like, that wasn't so hard. What
Wow.
was I scared of all these years? I'm supposed to be this, I'm the number one ranked survivalist in the world.
That's
But
right.
what I would do is I'd figure out if I have a weakness, I find another thing that's a strength and just kind of
Yeah.
rely on something I know works versus try something new and not eat for the night.
Wow.
But we did it. And now
Wow.
I've created another skill in my bag that I can teach others, use myself, and it's getting past that gate. And I think some of that revisits me from when I was a little boy getting bullied.
No
And if
question.
you get bullied, those bullies will show up in your life again and again and again, just to check in on you, whether it's in the form of a task, a boss, or something. And I'll tell you that as a victim of childhood bullying has found its way into my life over and over again in the 59
Yeah.
years.
Wow.
So,
Man, people listen
oh,
to what
shoot.
brother EJ Snyder is whoop.
Hold on.
Oh, there you
What
are.
the heck?
But
Hold
no,
on.
no.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I fat thumbed it. I had these
It's
new
all good. You're good.
updates. So
Well,
anyway,
listen, I'm gonna no, so folks, just listen to what EJ's saying. I mean, he's just dropping nuggets left and right. Again, not to be a naked and afraid survivalist, but to survive in life. I think it's and not just
yeah,
to survive, by the way, to thrive. I mean, the things that you're talking about. So listen, I'm going to reverse things here real quick
right.
because I don't want to lose you here. But what I'd like you to do right now, and I have some rapid fire questions, but we'll bounce
Okay.
those if this doesn't work. But
No,
I
let's
want,
go
well, you
quick.
got a little time on your right?
Yeah, got about 16%. So that'll get us
Okay.
another
All right.
three or
Yeah.
4 minutes,
Yeah,
five
that's
minutes.
all
I
we need.
don't
That's all we need. So let me ask you the rapid fire questions now. These are a little out of whack, but some of them
know.
you
Right.
might get a. So you're a dad, right?
Yep.
You're a father? Okay, so here's the question, rapid fire. What's harder, combat, fatherhood, or reality TV?
Fatherhood because, and I would say that because, you try hard to get it right for your kids and you want
Yeah,
them to have a better life than you had. And then
yeah,
sometimes that causes other mistakes in life and not development. So, um, I would say fatherhood
yeah.
was one of my proudest things in life. And the thing that,
The
is
hardest
can
thing,
be
yeah.
like stepping on Legos. And in many cases can be like naked and afraid all in one. So,
Yeah, very interesting. So, what's the biggest rookie mistake people make in survival?
um, like I said, panic, not staying
Yeah,
calm. That's the biggest mistake. Because if you could just stay calm and keep a clear head and know that you can figure something out to keep you alive, that's the biggest thing, biggest
yeah.
mistake.
You've kind of answered this already, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And that is, what is one mantra you repeat to yourself when you want to quit?
There's many things. Let's see. Uh, you know, I tell people all the time, you better get comfortable being uncomfortable because in survival in
Yeah,
life, that's
yeah,
a pressure cooker. So
yeah,
the mantra I tell myself when I'm about to quit is, victory tastes better than defeat.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
love it. No, and you've said a lot of even a lot of things like embrace the suck and
yeah,
all these others.
survival's
Okay,
simple. Just don't die. That's what
just
I tell my
don't.
students.
There you go. So what's the moment in your life where you felt most alive?
When I'm in the fire the most, when you're being
Yeah,
tested to a point, um, and you're out there in the wilderness or in a situation, and you're in that heat of the moment, and you come out the other side, and it's just like, wow, I just did that shit.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
I mean, there's a
yeah.
lot of
There's
those
there's
moments.
probably not
And
nothing
that's
like
what
that.
pushes you to keep driving to feel it again.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting you say. And so my last question is, what's scarier, wild animals or fake people?
Fake people.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
know
I really,
the intentions of
yeah,
of
this has
wild
been a
animals.
great podcast, Kevin.
Oh
Thanks
my.
for really, I'm
No,
glad
it's
we
a
got
pleasure.
here. I'm glad our journey to get here.
Yes.
We both learned some
Oh
things
man.
and went through it. And this
Love
is
it.
sharing. This has been this is going to be one of my favorite podcasts I've ever
Oh
done
man, that
because I
makes me
love the
feel good.
way you're you went about it and you're
Yeah.
questioning and all that. And I am 100% like
No, the pleasure is
excellent.
completely mine. May I
And
just ask before you leave, EJ,
yeah,
share with the audience where they can get a hold of
all
you,
right.
find you. I know you've got all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
to offer. Please.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into the entrepreneurial thing that I'm doing. So I'm involved in a
Or your
lot of
book.
things.
I mean, if you got a
Got my
second, I'm
book.
happy that you share any of
Yep,
that.
yep. Emergency home preparedness. You can get it on Amazon. The Emergency Home Preparedness Guide by EJ Snyder, or go to my website if you want to get a signed copy. EJSnyder.com. You can link up with me. All my social media is right there at EJSnyder.com. Or you can email Skull Crusher MGR. That's SKULLCRUSHER at yahoo.com. And you can get a signed copy of my book with an autographed picture and some other goodies for $30 plus shipping. And I've got Survival Mastery.
Yeah.
So it's www.survivalmastery.co. It's my online learning platform, all things survival, outdoors, and off grid living, plus motivational life coaching
Yeah.
stuff's over there too. We talk about a lot about mindset. You can go there and subscribe and join today with EJ2025. Get yourself a discount. And freedompickles.com. Check us out. I have a pickle
I
company,
love this.
best tasting, healthiest pickle on the planet. Go over there, check us out. And again, EJSnyder.com. And most of my social media handles are at EJ Snyder 333, except for Facebook. It's EJ Snyder. You'll see me with all the war paint on my face.
Yep.
And then Survive with EJ on YouTube. Plenty of tips, tricks, and
Wow.
hacks over there. Please come subscribe today. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. Everybody out there, you have
Brother,
a wonderful life. And remember, stay positive, be good to yourself, and know there's always one more thing you can do in a survival situation and life. Just don't
my
give up
goodness.
on yourself.
God bless you, brother. Man, I appreciate you so much, taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here on Grow Yourself.
I appreciate it. Now it's back to labeling pickle jars.
Go for it.